I asked him at one point, I was like, is this like normal? And he's like, yeah, it's like one of the leading mental health issues. Like a lot of people have it. So that's when I was like, all right, it's not just me. That knowing that it wasn't just me felt so good to know.
Yeah. So what do you think it means to be a good
What
man?
does masculinity mean to you? And why is and where do you think you learned it from?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think masculinity has taken shape in a lot of different ways, kind of just with the way society's been going. But for me, masculinity is taking responsibility for yourself and for the others around you. Not in the sense of taking responsibility and isolate yourself and kind of put yourself in the hole. Like I'd say, like a lot of not bashing on it, but like a lot of stoicisms, like shut yourself down, take responsibility. But in the
Mhm.
sense of every action you take should be intentional, and every action you take should for others should also be intentional. So I think responsibility and intentionality just around what you do, whether that be something, you're the blue collar guy, um, going out to the work or whatever, taking responsibility of that, or if you're someone just trying to find themselves and experiment to themselves that way, take responsibility and take intentionality when you're experimenting like that. Um,
Mhm.
so I think, yeah, to sum that all down, I think masculinity now is just recognizing who you are and then staying true to that and being intentional with what you do.
Yeah, I love the intentionality component. It's just kind of just the thinking just before you kind of execute a plan is oftentimes enough to eliminate mistakes or missteps that you could make. Um, where do you think you learned it from? Was it from a mentor? Was it experiences? Was it like family or work? Like, how do you think you came to this definition of masculinity?
I think a large part was one, my dad. He is a very intentional man. And just kind of seeing the way he would take intentionality, not only in stuff that he was doing, but also when he would be, supporting the family or talking to other people. He'd also kind of go out his way, make sure that if he was good, he was able to make those around him good. And another thing is largely just kind of observing the way like a lot of my close friends operate and the way they kind of approach life with not kind of like spraying and praying, but being more intentional. And then also, I really look up to people that if they do make a mistake, they're taking responsibility for it and they're taking action to remediate it, and kind of holding true to their integrity in that way as well. So yeah, largely my dad, but also kind of just growing up with some good people around me.
Hmm. And in a similar vein, like one of the main trends that I noticed from guys I talk to on like For Honor the Hood Talk is that they're guys in a position where they've kind of worked to a point where they can describe like their experiences and vulnerabilities, like to teach a community to share. And so I'm wondering, like, what was your process in getting to a point where you can talk about things like mental health and kind of open up to other guys and try and help other guys get to a similar point? Like, what was your process to getting to that like point of strength?
It was a pretty long road. I think um, I wrote an article about this, and I can share the link with you.
Yeah,
I'm
I would love
diagnosed
to
with
see your work
yeah,
too.
I'm diagnosed with depression, and so going through college, I didn't know I had depression. I was kind of just like in the weeds for a good part of it. Did a lot of partying, a lot of kind of like pushing it away with just substances, trying to work as much as I could, stay busy. And so I didn't really process what was going on until after I graduated college. And graduating college, I did a year at home. And then after that year, I moved down to San Diego. And by the time I got down to San Diego, I was like, why do I still feel like this? Like, felt this way through college, felt this way. And then there was all some excuse of like, oh, I'm in college and figuring life out. And then at home, I was like, oh, it's because I'm at home and it's COVID. Uh, and then when I was in San Diego and it was supposed to be like, yo, like life is where you wanted it to be, I was still feeling bad. Um, And that's when I was like, all right, I need to figure something out. So I started going to therapy, and started talking to my therapist. And I think the biggest thing, especially with depression, is it's such an isolating feeling. Like you feel like no one else feels it. And it was my therapist who was like, yeah, like I asked him at one point, I was like, is this like normal? And he's like, yeah, it's like one of the leading mental health issues. Like a lot of people have it. So that's when I was like, all right, it's not just me. That knowing that it wasn't just me felt so good to know. And keep in mind, this has already kind of been, I'd say, a year into Always Check on the Homies. But it was when I was originally doing Always Check on the Homies, there wasn't like a focus on me going out there. It was kind of just like hiding behind the brand and not really engaging in the full conversation. And I think the turning point um, happened. Therapist helped me out a lot, and then kind of seeing the message of Always Check on the Homies be grasped by so many people, I was like, all right, other people are like, there was verification for what my therapist said, and that's when I was like, all right, I think I'm okay to talk about this.
Hmm.
So yeah, it was the long road of like recognizing where I was at, and then having an outside perspective, letting me know like you're not alone in this, and then also having like a verification for that um, comment just through I'll check on the homies, and then me finally being like, all right, it's time to take this more seriously, spread the message more, and go about it that way. So it wasn't an easy road, but I think now being on the other side, being able to talk about it pretty confidently and to help others out is extremely rewarding, and also like in a sense like helps me with my stuff, knowing that like we're all going through it together.
Yeah, no, it's so helpful to hear that process because a lot of times I think it like what the content we see online and the resources we engage with for help a lot of times are just from guys who are already in a great spot, and the process from getting there isn't always exactly clear. And I think you touched on one of the main like band-aids for like when you're struggling with something like depression, is turning to things to just fill the hole and kind of distract, whether it's work or partying or fun or but at the end of the day you're with you. And if you're not
Yeah.
good with you, then it doesn't really help. And so having that realization and then turning towards helpful resources like therapy to work on that is really the key in the process. So super helpful to have you like share that with our community. And then the other the other piece that I think is challenging is just like that period of transition, because it is easy to ascribe a difficulty to like, oh, I'm just college ended and that's why I'm sad, or this isn't the way I wanted this to go, and or I'm stressed at work and that's why I'm sad. So, but I think it is really important to have some reflection time, and kind of check in with how you are with yourself, and the message of like always. I love the message of always check on the homies because it's immediately clear like what's going on, because it's like it's four guys and it's like familial. It's like because when you say homies, like I have like the group of homies like pop up in
Yeah.
my mind, like, and everyone has their own people that they would want to check on. So I'm so glad that's been taken off. And I also resonate with your journey for like showing up more and not hiding behind the brand. So like Under the Hood Talk, it's all just like the guys we talk to, and I facilitate a lot of them and behind the scenes. And the first video and we're making with just like me and my face is going to come up probably next week. But it took me like 3 weeks to film. Like it's way harder than I thought to just stick your face out there.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because like yeah, you touched on it, like being able to like hide behind like the brand or behind something, you're like, oh, I'm still talking about the mission, but like nobody really like knows it's me. But
Mm-hmm.
the second, yeah, you put your identity to it, it's almost like a next level of acceptance of like, this is where I'm at, like this is what we're talking about, and this is not only just a brand now, like this is part of my life now.
Yep.
Um, Yeah.
100%. So we'll see how it goes. I'm just starting the journey to, and we're gonna try and, because I still think that one of like our secret sauces is the fact that it's a platform for the community, and it's not just like my personal page, but I think mixing in a couple videos to show people like who is organizing the content and facilitating is going to be helpful to build that connection, because it is helpful to see like more guys talking about it, and just to really stick my name behind it, I think is an important step. So definitely relate to that. So the other thing I wanted to ask you was, like, since starting always check on the homies, like how is it with the homies? Like
Uh,
how has it affected you and your friendships?
it's gotten, I would say, better, for
Yeah.
sure. I think just like the immediate group of guys I have around me, I like to think we're all pretty confident. I've put a lot of the boys onto therapy, which is also cool. And like immediate friend group has been, yeah, I think really conscientious of mental health and kind of moving forward. And they're all also like relatively ingrained into the brand just because they've been there from the start. They've helped out a ton. Um, so in that sense, it's been good. And then outside of that too, kind of with our event piece, have been seeing the message attached to people so much more, and constantly getting new conversations from you guys being like, hey man, like finally was able to talk to my boys about this that I like was keeping inside, and so and so like finally opened to me about this because of like the last time we were at your event. So it's been cool seeing like a next level of awareness, because like nothing's really changed in the friendships or nothing's really changed in the community other than the fact that like everyone's a little more comfortable being open with each other.
That's awesome. And I think it goes a long way. A lot of Another big theme that I hear in my conversations is how men need community, and a lot of male friendships are based only on experiences and like doing that activity you do together, but without sharing any kind of emotional connection. And so something like always check on the homies that gives like a brand, a protocol for like normalizing that kind of opening up, I think is awesome for advancing those male friendships into like an actual support system that we all need.
Yeah, yeah. I think like that's you're right on point with that. Like a lot of guy friendships. I mean, before I was checking on the homies, a lot of my college friendships were, hey, like you guys like watching football, like let's go watch a game or let's go do this. And it was always like kind of the surface level. And I think kind of where we part of the reason why we started events is we wanted to like blend in the message into an experience. So people could come watch like live music with the undertones of mental health. So they're tying an experience to also an emotional like conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I love it because that's sometimes like the jump from like going from normal daily life into some like in-person, like intense kind of sharing circle can just kind of put up some walls like, oh, this is like too much. But so I like the idea of kind of blending it and just getting like some companionship and camaraderie around an event with a goal for like advancing mental health and opening up a bit, but not really forcing it in some kind of more unnatural setting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's worked pretty well so far, and we're gonna keep doing it. And every time we experiment a little bit with like how we approach advertising the event, how we approach what kind of experience we want to give. But yeah, I think as long as the mission's there, most of the time people are leaving with a new, at least a temporary newfound interest in kind of exploring their mental health.
I'm wondering, so for when we share our conversation, I'd love to just funnel some people. Like, is there a event you guys have coming up? Like, if we say like, hey, if you're in the Dallas area, check out. It doesn't have to be now, but like, I would love it. Or just email me when something's coming up. I'd love to push it.
Yeah, definitely. We have we have a couple events. So for San Diego, I mean most of our events are in San Diego.
Okay.
San Diego events. I don't know if you're familiar with the Boiler Room or like those kind of DJ sets.
Oh yeah, Andrew's friend Harry, I think DJs
Yeah,
sometimes there. Maybe I saw him post on Instagram, but or maybe he
yeah,
was going. I don't know, but yes, I've heard of it.
yeah. We're trying to do some like boiler room style like DJ sets. Those should be on a monthly basis coming up here.
Sweet.
Free shows, just trying to get people in the door. Donate if you can. We're calling them like donate if you can. So if you feel compelled to like donate to the cause, support the mission, but largely focused on just getting people together. And then I think our next big planned event as of now is going to be in October with June Shine. Um,
Okay.
if you heard of June Shine, yeah. So it's going to be, we did one in June with them, and so yeah, we want them back. They want us back, so we're going to bring in like a live band, um, bring people together that way.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, no, I would love because it's a good like hole for us to fill. Like we have a lot of like big top of the funnel like things that'll get people to click on the page. And so I'd love finding resources that I can direct those clicks to that will like actually get more in-person like friendship, support, experiences. So I would definitely love to funnel more of our audience to a live event. I think things like men's groups are so awesome, and I've heard a bunch of different like styles of it from like potluck to a live event or like kind of an outdoorsy Knowles camping style retreat. And I think having more flavors the better because it does matter like what the experience is and what the setting is. Um, and I think especially as guys get older, I mean, I've seen research like every 10 years, the circle guys have drops by one. So by the time someone's like 50, 60, like it can be down to one or zero person you can call up to help. And um, I was talking to a guy, a teacher, a few months ago, and he was explaining like this concept of building out your top three. And it could be a person, an experience, a resource that you go to for help. And so some people don't have three people. So like one of your top threes could be like going for a walk. And just having those three items, whether it's people or therapy or an online resource or exercise to go to when you need support. And I loved that because it was kind of accepting of guys who don't have larger networks. But I think something like an in-person event is so cool to kind of bring together like-minded guys interested in like healthy connection.
Yeah, no, definitely. And yeah, I would love to discuss kind of bringing it out to the East Coast as well, because yeah, I got most of my family's out there, and I know there's a lot of people out there, so we should talk about that.
Yeah, for sure. Let's stay in touch. Let's see. Is there anything else you want to share to the community watching in, like that we haven't covered so far?
I think this kind of covers everything. I think, yeah, with Always Check on the Homies, I think our original slogan for Always Check on the Homies was like the message is simple, but the impact is limitless. So kind of like as it says, like check on your friends. Asking for help is also like not a sign of weakness. I think a lot of people, especially a lot of men, think that if they show vulnerability to other guys or if they have to go out and ask for help, people are going to look down on them. Um, and I just, from my experiences and kind of everyone else's experiences that I've seen around me, it's helped a ton. And I think there's strength in that, and there's also strength. Like if you're in a good spot, don't be afraid to offer help, or check on your homies. So, yeah, I think that covered everything. But
That's
um,
awesome.
yeah,
That's awesome. I think it's important. It's like when you've reached a place where you kind of feeling healthy enough, strong enough to reach back on someone who might be struggling, and kind of just like remember that process and how to help bring people forwards is like an extra empathy layer that I think is so important for getting everyone to a better place.
yeah, definitely. We're all in this together. So if you're up, bring people up with you.
That's awesome. Well, it was so awesome to connect with you and your work. Let's definitely stay in touch about how we can do something East Coasty, and even just in this initial sharing, like with the like we have followers in San Diego, I'm sure. So at the very least, just hopefully we can snag a couple San Diego viewers and clickers to maybe show up at a live event, or at least follow along with checking the homies. So this is awesome to add you and your work, and excited for the possibility of some more collabs.
Yeah, definitely. It's been good chatting.
Yeah. So what do you think it means to be a good man?
I don't think there's a single definition.
Things that make up a good man are just things that make up a good person. Someone who's honest, someone who's decent.
You're also willing to express yourself in a healthy way, and you're in touch with your emotions as well.